£100,000 is the biggest package, you would say, or is that the average package?
We could go up to 65 million if you want to go to space. So it really depends where where you want to go.
Jonny Dodge, adventurer, entrepreneur, and multi-million-pound business founder for VIP Events.
You can spend millions on corporate hospitality. Someone spending £100,000 per person to go on a F1 weekend isn't unheard of at all.
What would you say is the most outrageous F1 story?
I mean, we've done everything from have Eminem backstage at concerts in Sao Paulo through to last minute hosting Lewis Hamilton's party on our yacht in Abu Dhabi at the Formula One race. Money is no object where people need last minute super yachts the day before the race chartered. It's a whirlwind. The intensity of pressure, you have hundreds of guests and millions of dollars worth of hospitality spent. At Monaco Grand Prix, each of the assets you're dealing with is a $50 million super yacht. Anything could possibly go wrong. There's no value to money when you have a certain amount of wealth. You can experience and do anything you can dream of. What people will spend on things, like we've got people that have spent tens of millions of dollars on holidays with us. And the demands then are absolutely wild. This world of billionaires we live in, how do you get back to normality? What's the actual goals in life? I put together this opportunity to go and get shipwrecked on a desert island, purposely.
What do you mean you put it together to go get shipwrecked? Like, did you go put everyone on a boat and then purposely crash it? Like, how do you go get shipwrecked? I'm Sam Vanderpump, born into a family of entrepreneurs. However, I'm forging my own path, running a foreign exchange brokerage, working with some of the biggest global brands. Each week, I sit down with the power players, innovators, and legacy builders in my network to uncover the bold moves, breakthrough moments, and behind-the-scenes grits that turn big ideas into filthy rich realities. Welcome to Filthy Rich, the podcast where money meets meaning and success leaves a story. In today's episode, we talk super yachts, private jets, and why Monaco isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. There are power moves, and then there's this guy, a man who's Dodge by name, but not by nature. He's the founder and CEO of GPM Events, Your Sky, My Ocean, and My Global Base, organising everything from Formula One weekends to floating palaces on the Med. Private islands, been there. Billionaire parties, plan those. If it moves fast, costs a fortune, or comes with a champagne fountain, he's probably behind it. Welcome to Filthy Rich, Jonny Dodge.
Hey,
how are you? Well, thank you very much for coming along. Let's take it from the beginning. How did this all start? What was your first job, I think, is the interesting question here.
Well, actually, so when I was at uni, I took my master's degree in London and then started taking internships, which for me, I would recommend to anyone. That is the thing that really pulled me through, and I offer them back now to people when they want to do it. But I started in working for a brand, like sponsoring all these celebrity parties in London. And so it meant that I got invited to every cool party because I was the guy that would give them some money for sponsoring the party. So I worked for this agency that we go around and do all these events. And then that kind of created a world of celebrities and events that I then got embroiled into and started organising events and getting into nightclubs and buying nightclubs, and this was a whole world. So yeah, that was exciting.
So would I be safe to say that you started off as a promoter, but then, you built this network, and did you ever expect or predict it would go to this kind of level of where you are now?
My first foray into it was sponsoring these big celeb events. That then went on to organising the Gumball Rally. Then owning a nightclub was always a really great thing because that gave you, whether you're a billionaire or a celebrity, you want to meet the guy that owns the club. So that was a great platform to have. And at the time, my partner owned an airline, a Formula One team, a football club. So Tony Fernandez was a real mentor to me at the time. And that really then gave me that stepping stone. And if you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so to be around someone like that a normal day for him was checking in on his airline, going to a Formula One race with his own team, these sorts of things. It was like, well, why is that not possible for me? So I actually then looked at launching my own airline and went through that process. I then got straight into Formula One, was introduced to Bernie Ecclestone and did my first deal with Bernie. And then turned up at one of my first races. So that was really kind of a whirlwind, but it was all down to connections and relationships, and that's what's really driven everything I've had.
How do you start an F1 events company? Because let's say I want to sell timber tomorrow. I can go buy a bit of timber, sell it to someone down the road, and I've started my timber company. But to start an F1 events company, I mean, you basically just said it. It's from your network, getting in that network, and then that's allowed you to get on the trackside of Monaco. I mean, with a super yacht. I mean, how does that happen exactly? Can I do it?
Yeah. I mean, look, yeah, you're right, and that's the challenge. But I mean, I think that's the opportunity in life, and educating people that the reality is make those connections, and then you can put people together. You don't necessarily need experience in that industry. If you know a guy that's selling a building and another one that wants to buy one, you just need to be the guy in the middle. You don't need to know anything about selling buildings. So it's kind of like finding where the opportunities lie. And for me, it was I was always passionate about motorsport, Formula One, coming from the days of Gumball and then through to that. And so the opportunity to be there and a warm introduction from someone that had just bought a Formula One team to Bernie Ecclestone was pretty much my opportunity. So I then decided to pick up the phone and call Bernie, and called the office line at Formula One, left a message for him. Hi, can I speak to Mr. Ecclestone? They were like, oh, we'll let him know you called. Called a second time the following week, and the third week I get a phone call, and Mr. Ecclestone's on the phone for you.
So we've already just got into how you started the business, and we've already got into your Rolodex, and we've already stumbled upon the name Bernie Ecclestone.
Yeah.
Who else is in this great black book of yours? What names would you do which really speak out to you? I mean, you were with Richard Branson just last week, right?
Yeah, on Necker Island. And I mean, again, it's this community, and the goal is really to build these relationships that inspire you. And I always want to be around those people. I want to be the dumbest, poorest guy in the room. And like, if that's the opportunity, that means that you're going to go somewhere with it. And I think some people are scared of that. They want to be there to showcase something so for me, it was about this kind of journey of, right, how do I add value back to this community, and how do I then meet these types of people? So yeah, meeting Elon Musk or Richard Branson and building these relationships. I just spent the last week on Necker, which was amazing. I love it there, and really talking about big impact stuff. Again, your discussion over breakfast is, how are you going to impact over 1 billion people's lives? It's really far more deeper thinking about like the world's greatest challenges, and that is really what's inspiring for me, to be around these types of people.
So it's not all just parties and drinking and all of that. It's actually on these islands and in these places, you're just talking business.
Yeah, but we're talking with a real purpose, like a real meaning, like something that we want to impact. And I think that's when you've got big visions and you can connect with those people. That's what's so important. So yeah, for me, that's where the value lies.
Now, with the company of where it is today, GPM Events is probably your first biggest company, would you say?
Yeah, we started that one 16 years ago, but now there's 8 other companies in the group. So it's
wow, fantastic. Yeah. And with GPM Events, what would you say is your most expensive package that you could actually do?
It's always based on the amount of people. You can spend millions on corporate hospitality, and day to day, that's ultimately, if you want to come to a Formula One race, it's about that sort of thing. So it's like, right, how do we get the wow factor? And now we consult for Formula One and for other major brands in the sport on how to make that experience more engaging, more exciting. Like in the hospitality sector, the inflation and the demand has grown so much in recent years. A few years ago, we wouldn't have seen it. Now, someone spending £100,000 per person to go on a F1 weekend isn't unheard of at all. So what's changing is actually you get more consumers rather than the corporates. The corporates were driving this before in terms of like this access and these types of things. But now consumers living life and spending money on living life is really where it's at. And of course, then we have trips to Antarctica that we put on. We do supercar rallies. So we have some of the world's greatest adventures.
£100,000 is the biggest package, you would say, or is that the average package? We're not talking about the top 1% here, are we? We're talking about the top 0.01%. I
mean, we could go up to 65 million if you want to go to space. So it really depends where where you want to go. But yeah, I mean, look, an average consumer will generally spend 20,000 with us per trip on something. But again, that's a mix of corporates as well that we look after around the Formula One races.
So tell us, what is GPM Events? What do they do?
So the first business I started about 16 years ago started by running events around Formula One, everything from like running Lewis Hamilton's party at the race through to hospitality. We were running F1 festivals and galas around the world, through to now we go into corporate incentives and crazy experiences for customers. So taking corporate groups down to Antarctica for the day. So it really is now creating these completely unique experiences around the world.
So what started as a F1 hospitality company has now evolved, grown into a completely tailored experience for whatever client you come across, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really is these kind of very high-end experiences, and we kind of we put those together. So it's less of a thought process of we're there to go, here's an idea. Do you want to go to Antarctica? Do you want to go and learn to be an astronaut? Like the craziest, do you want to drive a Formula One car? That's all the fun stuff that we then put together for our clients.
So is that how you got into started the other businesses? Because of the natural progression?
Exactly that. I mean, obviously, Monaco Grand Prix is a huge race for us. We have a lot of yachts there at the race. And we then started to get a lot of demand from clients to charter boats. So then we launched My Ocean 5 years ago. That's now a full service agency in the yachting industry. So we have everything from super yacht management, charter, sales, and new build projects. So we're really working across the whole sector. So we'll do everything from buying your vessel for you, looking after it, and chartering it out for you. So it's really, that has become a new exciting world that we're in now.
And then I saw recently you then launched the private jet booking app.
Yeah, so we have Your Sky. That jet business has been growing from strength to strength. And so we get a lot of demand. So having that, being able to book it online as well is a great platform. And with our growth in social media, and that is really where a lot of our clients come from nowadays.
Your fourth company, which you would probably talk is your probably most exclusive company, would you say, which is
Global Base? Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So we've now seen, look, we have such a great community of customers through our businesses, and we started to look at where's that next step going, and we see a lot of big travel trends because of what we do. We see the way people travel, so we see that the way people are traveling are different. They used to, you'd used to go for Spain in the summer for a 3-week holiday or something if that was your general operation. Now people are traveling for seasons, months at a time, taking friends, family and staff with them on trips. So now living seasonally has become the cultural shift that we're seeing, especially in that higher end market. So for us, we were like, why, let's build residences and homes around the world for our friends and community to live in. So we started that with our first project in Bali with Global Base, and now we're looking at building those around the world. But it really gives you this opportunity to live with a like-minded community, and I think that's what people are going to demand going forward. Is there's a clear need in across all verticals really of community. That's where the big demand is, and we're seeing that as a key trend. So we just want to bring community together.
So let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to the F1. You know, fast cars, billionaires, parties, all sounds amazing. What would you say, though, is the most outrageous F1 story that you've got out of all the history you've gone through? I mean, what is it? What would you tell me that is so jaw-dropping?
Look, I mean, there's been so many, and I think we've done everything from have Eminem backstage at concerts in Sao Paulo through to last minute hosting Lewis Hamilton's party on our yacht in Abu Dhabi at the Formula One race. So the things that you go through, those experiences are just absolutely incredible. And money is no object where people need last minute super yachts the day before the race chartered for Monaco Grand Prix, or out in Abu Dhabi, they want to come racing supercars and come to the race. So the type of clientele you get through this is fascinating, but also working with the brands and creating incredible experiences for them. But Monaco is always my favorite race, and that is the jewel in the crown. And that's where kind of you've got Cannes Film Festival, the celebrities fly in and they're like, right, we need this celeb to come on the boat, and we're getting them tenders from Cannes to come across. So yeah, it's a whirlwind.
And has there been a moment when this is all going down where you're going, oh shit, this could all go so disastrously wrong, and like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, is there real panic moments?
I think, look, I've been doing it for over 15 years now, and I think that we get used to that. But the intensity of pressure, you have millions riding on you at a race weekend where it's enormous responsibility. So you think you're dealing a Monaco Grand Prix, each of the assets you're dealing with is a $50 million super yacht. Anything could possibly go wrong. So the weight on your shoulders of then hundreds of guests and millions of dollars worth of hospitality spend. So there's enormous amounts of pressure, but we've managed to overcome every hurdle, and that's kind of the fun of the game. So I love it.
Have you ever had to chuck anyone off a boat because they've broken something, or is that
Many times?
maybe me? But along this journey, is there a moment where you go, that is probably the most controversial thing I've seen in regards to where you just don't know how to deal with it?
This world, everyone's used to the chaos that happens around that world, and I think that it's fun and games, but nothing's ever too risque.
Okay, so I'm not going to ask you for names, but what is the most craziest story you've got?
The madness of what people will spend on things. Like, we've got people that have spent like tens of millions of dollars on holidays with us, and the demands then are absolutely wild, from like spending $20,000 flying bottles of Fiji water in because that was the only water they drink, through to kind of like the ordering like $60,000 bottles of red wine for dinner. And it's there's no value to money when you have a certain amount of wealth. And so then it's about, how can I experience it more? What can I do? So when you charter Airbus A330 private jets, which have their own gyms and cinemas on board, like there is literally a point where you can't spend enough money. So you can experience and do anything you can dream of.
Now, who is it who's being so dramatic that they only drink Fiji water? Is that Richard Branson, Lewis Hamilton?
Absolutely not. No, those two are very... I mean, I was just speaking to Richard, and he's now looking at getting rid of his aircraft. He's very much about the environment. His whole island's sustainable. And again, he lives life to the full. He really... Life is about living for him, his quality of life. And it kind of reminds you, I think he's probably the least ostentatious billionaire I know. In fact, when we flew back from Necker, we were joking on the tender ride back from the island, going, right, well, we'll play a game. Whoever wins goes on Richard's plane. And he said, don't worry, I think I'm on your plane. And he got on the American Airlines flight with us and came and sat in economy. So it was a surprise to everyone else on the plane, but we had some fun with it.
That's brilliant. That is brilliant. And you talk about Richard Branson and when you're there on the island, but are you still sat there taking advice from him?
Of course. I mean, that's where some of the most valuable moments come from. And I think that, ultimately what I learned from him most recently is, his ability, like, we went out cycling for the day up in Virgin Gorda, and he outcycled me up the mountain, and I road bike at the weekends. Like, he's 74 years old. Like, it's absolutely insane. So he is like, he's playing chess every day, tennis. He's so cognitive, like every detail spot on. So living life to the full outside of work, like enjoying the moment, being present. These things are where people forget. They focus on business too much. Be present, enjoy life, and focus on that.
So does Richard Branson have a top tip for becoming a billionaire? Because if so, can you share it? I'm sure I would love to know.
I think one of the key things is, trying to think about how you're going to affect over 1 billion people's lives. Whatever that product is, whether it's a new coffee shop, or whether it's making books, or like providing a service, whatever thing that you might be wanting to do, the reality is think so much bigger. So for me, the trick is really about, right, what if this project, the idea that you had, you wanted it to turn over $1 million, but what if it had to turn over 10? Like, and I go through this process with my employees on different projects we work on. And the reality then goes, well, if it needs to turn over 10 million, we need to change the suppliers, we need to change the marketing, we need to change venues, operations, processes. I'm like, go and do all those things and then come back to me. At that point, you start to realize that that's what's going to create larger change. Creating incremental change is not where the goal's at. You need to go, right, how can I move the needle significantly? So aiming for the stars and hitting the moon is always the goal. So aim for 10x, but dream bigger than you can possibly think of. And then if you fail, you'll still hit 2, 3, 4x, which is definitely the goal.
So aim for the skies, and if you hit, somewhere in between, then you've still done okay.
Exactly. People don't dream big enough.
Yeah, well, I can understand that. And what would you say is probably the biggest risk you've taken in your career? Is there a risk that you regret?
I certainly don't regret anything because where I've got to, I'm immensely happy for it. I think that it's all part of the journey. So the opportunity to do those and stumble along the way is what's got me here. And if I hadn't have had those challenges, then you wouldn't get to where you are. So I value all of those. But so I think it's really about how do you create a better, a bigger opportunity and a bigger challenge around pushing those things forward.
And is there anything you've done which has ended up being something you wouldn't do again?
We tried to set up the airline and couldn't in the end. We couldn't raise all the capital. But my God, at the age of, in my very early 20s after uni, I'd pulled together the founder of Virgin Galactic, who was Richard's business partner at the time, the CEO of the first light jet operator in Europe and the CFO of AirAsia to start an airline. And I'd bought a company called Silverjet, which was, people might remember back in the day, bought the brand out of administration and built that from there. So that journey, although we didn't succeed, was such a learning for me. And maybe I wouldn't have even set up a jet company if I hadn't have gone through that process of trying to set up the airline.
So it's not everything, you do fail, but would you say you just keep on trying, and then what works, you stick with, and when it fails, you just ditch it quickly and move on to the next?
I think making decisions over which processes you follow, I like to do things incrementally. Like what might seem like an enormous hill to climb is really just those small steps. And I think that I've learned those things along the way. And it goes back to connections and relationships. If you can pull those things together, then it makes things a hell of a lot easier. Going into a space where you don't have those is always a challenge. You need to make sure that the connections is what's going to build those. So you can have an idea, but unless you have the ability to pull that off with the relationships or a route to market, that's always going to be your challenge.
This episode is sponsored by one of my businesses, Vanderpump FX. If you're a business sending or receiving money from abroad, contact us. Most banks and providers overcharge you on the exchange rates. At Vanderpump FX, we can help businesses and individuals like you save on every transaction. With savings up to 5% compared to most banks. We make sure your money stays where it belongs, in your pockets, not the bank's. So let's go back to the events, because I've been on many of your events, absolutely fantastic. And, to all my listeners, they should 100% go check you guys out. But is there a point where you're hosting these parties, you're hosting these events, and you go, are you just numb to it now? Or would you say, do you still get that nostalgia where you look around and you go, fuck me, this is what I pulled off? Yeah,
look, I love it. And if I stopped doing that, then I'd stop doing everything. The reality is that I'm so passionate about it. I still go on I think it's my 8th or 9th trip to Iceland, driving up volcanoes and over the glaciers on our trip. And it's just the most fun. We have our supercar rallies. So these types of things. But I mean, recently when I went to Necker, of course, that's an incredible and life-changing experience for many people. The people there and spend time with Richard is now... And many trips I've now done there, but I brought 2 of my friends along, and I think that these types of things, seeing everyone live it for the first time, people's first Monaco Grand Prix, their first experience like that, I can see it through their eyes, and that brings the energy and excitement to me of and how can I do that better? How can I push those boundaries of wow factor? So every time it has to be bigger and better and more exciting, and getting to see it through the other people's eyes is what makes it exciting.
And is that why you make probably the lower end of your scale, try and make it as affordable as possible? So you encourage, people to live the lifestyle of a billionaire, sitting trackside. What is the cost of a package just to at least enter the boat for a day to see the F1 trackside? What's the basic package for that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's where we create opportunities, because we're giving you access to incredible, like you say, a $50 million yacht that you've got to charter for an F1 weekend. If you wanted to put that together and have your own yacht trackside with all these things, it's going to cost you a few $1 million for the weekend with everything you need to put together. So the reality is that if we can offer you a ticket to Friday free practice on a super yacht with champagne, and you can come in for £1,000, then that gives you access to a world which costs people millions.
So you go up to the 65 million scale if you need to, but at the same time you're making it approachable and you're opening the barriers to entry, I guess, for the average consumer.
Yeah, of
which
course.
Makes it fantastic for everyone. What point would you have said you probably turned around and you looked at all these 8 companies that you built and you go, hold on a fucking second here. I'm not just successful, but I'm filthy rich. You know, is there a point that you look at yourself, you know, and go, look what I built?
Like you say, things do become relative, and it's certainly not about the assets you hold. It's about how you live your life. I think that's really important, having that time and freedom. And when I set up new companies, sometimes they take up more time, and it's always remembering to kind of come back to what you value. So, I mean, for me, launching our new project in Bali means that it's an incredible place that I can go. It's so present and peaceful and relaxing there. So those types of things are great. And I love doing interviews like this where I can kind of talk about my story, and it gives you time to reflect when you're having these conversations. So I love it.
It's an interesting thing what you said, though. You said it's all relative, right? Because, I mean, you sat next to me right now. You're probably, in comparison to me, you are filthy rich. In comparison, though, to Richard Branson, when you sit next to him, you know, like you said, you're probably sometimes the poorest person in the room.
That's the goal, yeah.
Yeah, that's really hard to juggle, I guess, at times. You know, to understanding what room you're in and what environment you're in and what's cheap and what's expensive. How do you manage that and juggle that?
Look, I mean, for me, richness comes from experience, and like I get to, and I think this goes back to when I was younger and didn't have any money, and like you'd be in rooms, you're like, how can I add value to a billionaire? And so I'd share my stories of adventures, and whether that was in the last few weeks, I was up in Bhutan in the Himalayas, like climbing up the tiger's nest, or going, getting shipwrecked on desert islands in the Pacific Ocean for 10 days without food or water, or going now doing the 7 summits and climbing the mountains. These types of experiences is what's made me rich, but also that ability to be able to share that story with others. And that's what intrigues them. So if I want to capture Elon Musk's imagination whilst I'm sat next to him, it's like, right, let's talk about my trip to Antarctica. Let's discuss that. And all of a sudden he's engaged, he's excited. That sounds really interesting. Like, so no matter how much wealth you have, Elon's still interested to hear about my trip to Antarctica.
I mean, obviously we've spoken about sitting next to Richard Branson, but you bring up Elon Musk. I mean, what's he like to sit next to the person?
Very hard to engage. So finding that, he thinks at 100 miles an hour, and but when you do, and so that was fascinating. When I started chatting with him, we engaged quickly, and I thought nothing of it. And he's like, "Look, email me, and we'll talk about that project." And I didn't even think he'd reply. The next day, he sees it in his whole team being like, let's make this happen. And I was like, wow. So, he's definitely 100 miles an hour, but he goes and gets stuff done.
Right, you can see when he means something, he does it, sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And can we find out what was the project that you emailed Elon Musk about?
I can't say that bit.
Is it too early? Oh, come on. When are we going to find out what you and Elon Musk are discussing, eh?
I'll have to wait and see.
Okay. We'll stay tuned for all of that. So obviously you mentioned the shipwrecks, and I remember seeing it actually all over your social media. What essentially was it, and how did it happen?
This world of billionaires we live in. Like, how do you get back to normality? What's the actual goals in life? So I put together this opportunity to go and get shipwrecked on a desert island purposely.
What do you mean you put it together to go get shipwrecked? Like, did you go put everyone on a boat and then purposely crash it? Like, how do you go get shipwrecked?
So a friend of mine, Tom, was running these experiences. We had a chat and took a group of 6 of us to an island in the Pacific Ocean.
And then crashed the boat.
and then left us there. And like we'd had a bit of training before, and then spent 10 days there surviving. And that is really like, how do we find fish? Like, we got washed up fishing nets on the beach and managed to catch fish in some of the streams, and then then tried to make fire. It took us about 24 hours to make fire by rubbing sticks together, going through that whole process. But that really brings you back to reality, is like going on that island, money didn't matter. Like, the hierarchy of people didn't matter. Their connections didn't matter. All these things that are so fundamental in the world that I'm in. But that's what excites me. And also, I mean, just the experience of not having your phone for 10 days, being disconnected from the outside world, that ability to be completely present, realize that money actually has no real relevance outside of sight. And it also is not the thing that makes you happy. So all of these things gave you a real reality check. So that's why I've been so passionate about those types of experiences.
The Antarctica event sounds probably one of the most amazing. Tell us more about that.
So, so Antarctica, I did one of the first tourist trips to the centre of Antarctica about 17, 18 years back, where we flew down from Cape Town, landed on the ice. We went down in a IL-76 Aleutian, which is like this old cargo bomber plane that you sat in. The hull it's got a glass bomber bay at the bottom. You can go and see everything. So as the sun rises over the icebergs of Antarctica, I'm sitting down there. It's an absolutely incredible experience. And we're just going down with a load of scientists in the back, and then us. And just an incredible experience. But now we run these trips for clients, so you can do a day trip from Cape Town down to Antarctica madly. But we're also now planning rallies down there. We have a driving trip down in Antarctica where you land there on the ice, and then we put you in these giant Hiluxes the same ones we use up in Iceland for our trips up there, and get you driving across the ice. And it's really, it's a once in a lifetime experience. It really feels like you're landing on another planet there. Like everything, just there's no context, there's no there's no greenery, there's no way of judging scale or distance. It's just absolutely wild place.
When you're doing all these trips and you do all these expeditions, you're climbing mountains, you're scuba diving down however deep. Do you ever fear for your life? I might not be so lucky one time, because I'd be scared, right, after a while. Or are you just kind of used to it?
Yeah, look, sometimes there's definitely been some challenges, and like cave diving. Before you know it, that's I think it's the most dangerous sport in the world. And
because one wrong turn, right, or like one wrong one, and you're relying on your partner who's marking, you're writing together.
Yeah.
I know a bit about this because I like scuba diving, but the idea of going through caves, because if you take one wrong turn, you're not making it back with the oxygen.
Yeah, we were 70 meters under the ground in caves and several tunnels deep. And if you have a moment of panic there's no way back out until you go back through the other one. So that's definitely scary. So yeah, diving's often the great blue hole in Belize that we went down, and the sharks kind of around your back as you kind of look. It's definitely something. But I think I'm generally involved in things that I'm very experienced in. I wouldn't get into those environments if I wasn't. And often I'm the expedition leader in these experiences, whether that's up in Iceland taking these trips, or climbing up mountains. And but it's having that strong mindset. And I think that one of the most interesting things about, certainly I think of all my adventures, climbing is summit days on mountains, because the mindset that it requires. And I've had friends come with me on these trips, and they're training and training and training. And they look at me and how much training you've done. I was like, definitely not as much as you, because it's so much up here. And so those days on summit day, you've been climbing for days. You wake up at midnight. You then have to climb through the night, because you want to make sure you have the most daylight on your way back down, because that's the chance you're most likely to die. And trying to go to, you've got the least oxygen you're going to have on the trip, you've got the least sleep, so everything, you're having to manage your footsteps so you don't start to sweat, which could then turn to ice, which could make you freeze. I'm
sweating just listening to this story.
and you've just got your head torch, and you're just focused at your feet, and that is the challenge. You've got to wait till daylight. That time when the daylight dawns really starts to breathe a little bit more life and energy back into that experience and that achievement of hitting the summit. But your body can go through so much more than you think it can, and so much is power of the mind, and that comes back to everything we do. So manifesting that and doing those things is incredible how powerful that is. So as long as you remember it's up here, then you can do it.
Yeah, I think that's so key. One thing that I always ask all my guests is, what is the biggest perk about your job? But I think it's so obvious to you, right? It's that you get to do all of these experiences. Is there any better perk than that? Maybe the money?
Look, living this is incredible, and many of these are money can't buy moments for life. So I don't take that lightly, and it is an incredible experience, and things that just wouldn't be possible. So but I love meeting the people. That's what my biggest perk is. I love meeting people, and the types of people you bring together, such a similar mindset of people that want to go on adventures, want to meet like-minded people. So I love doing that, sharing stories and hosting people.
One of your many businesses is the space
experiences.
And that is probably one of your most crazy businesses, would you say?
I mean, of course, it certainly sounds like it, right? We set that up about 5 years ago, and we've had an amazing advisory board of people that have been involved in the space industry. We started by doing jet fighter trips and then zero-G weightless experiences, which is incredible experience to experience weightlessness, and that process is mad. So you have an aircraft that we take that NASA used called the Vomit Comet, and gives you these parabola flights that create a period of weightlessness for you. And I mean, these trips are very accessible. You can start from around $10,000 to go on a trip like this to start that process.
And go up to?
You could go up to $65 million if you want.
Jesus, so cheap course, right?
Yeah.
Who's buying these courses? Literally only the people like Elon Musk and Richard Branson, or billionaires, right?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, there's a variation in between. We sent our first customers to space about 3 years ago. I sent them up with Blue Origin. But yeah, it's amazing. You can have relative access to this world now. I mean, commercial space travel has been happening for well over 20 years now. It's just become easier and more accessible. So people don't realize that's possible, but I can get you on a trip to space within a few months.
Wow. So if someone spends 65 million, do you get like a +1? Because I'll be that +1, right?
That's per person, unfortunately.
Right, okay. Is it not like a buy one, get one free kind of deal here?
We can negotiate a bit.
Right, okay. So I'll find you a customer who spends 65 million and then you chuck one in free for me. If someone's spending 65 million, what exactly do you get? Do you get your own rocket with that?
So at the moment, to get up in space, generally you're traveling with SpaceX. Axiom also have access to that, and they then have access to the space station. Blue Origin are building Orbital Reef, their own space station as well. So there's a multitude of ways you can do that. But yeah, if you want to go and spend a week at the space station, then that's what is going to set you back. But that is obviously an incredible experience, and billionaires looking to experience that are signing up.
Do I get anything physical from my spending of 65 million, or is it just the experience? You walk away from that experience. I mean, obviously an amazing experience, but I don't get a rocket.
You'll get a little pin badge from being an astronaut.
A £65 million pin badge. I want it. Sign me up. And then obviously you've done everything in experiences, right? From F1 to yachts to planes, now to space. What's next? Where'd you go from this? Do you have any other plans?
For me, the passion is now around community. We have the Global Committee, which is our non-profit we're doing where we bring together a lot of our like-minded clients, create community events. We do Global Committee retreats, which we have down in Bali, one in October. We have our Global Committee summits, which is more about the business and of impact and what we can do. So we're really looking to grow that. That helps build our community, our network, and Global Committee under that forms Global Base, which is our residences that we're building. So that's really intertwined into a lifestyle of subscription living of like-minded people. I think that this is the way that we're going to live in the future, and that's what excites me next.
And what's the end goal of this?
Being able to make a big impact. This narrative affecting over 1 billion people's lives. How do you bring these people together? If we have the ability as an organization to influence and inspire some of the most powerful people on the planet, then I want to use that influence. So we're very lucky to have it and capitalizing on that. So for me, our time is now best spent in influencing those people, inspiring those people to make that big impact on the planet.
Well, I wish you the best of luck on your journey, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you,
really
mate.
Appreciated having you.
Yeah, I loved it.
Thank you very much. Thanks for watching Filthy Rich with me, Sam Vanderpump. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more episodes and exclusive content. For this podcast, search Vanderpod on all major audio streaming platforms. See you soon.